You clicked on this video because you are interested in investing or collecting in Pokemon cards. But you might be asking yourself, is that even worth doing? Is it really worth investing in Pokemon cards? I mean, let's be honest, everybody's talking about it. It's all over the internet, YouTube, Reddit, Discord, unks like me brawling like it's Super Smash Bros. Outside of Walmart. Hadouken! So if everyone's collecting and investing in Pokemon, is it even worth getting into? Well, that's the question I'm gonna answer for you today. And the real important point here, if you are investing in Pokemon cards, is that you should be investing in sealed Pokemon primarily. The safest, most consistent gains you're going to see are keeping your Pokemon product sealed. So that means buying booster boxes, booster bundles, ETBs, Pokemon Center ETBs, things of that nature. All right, so we got that out of the way. So now that you're into investing in sealed Pokemon, you want to know the question that I've asked myself many times over the years, which is how much sealed is actually left? How many sealed booster boxes from the Scarlet and Violet era are actually left out in the wild today? Well, that's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad I asked, I'm glad we asked. So now I can answer you. What's going on, guys? My name is Riley, aka Pokemon Trader. I'm a collector and investor. I've been doing it for the past 12 years, since about 2014 or so, and I've been doing it longer than 99% of other people in the space. And if you guys appreciate what I'm doing, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help. And if you do subscribe, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, which we are probably getting really close to, I'm going to rip open that Evolving Skies booster box live on this channel. So with my history in the hobby, I've been collecting and investing for a long time, and I've often asked myself this same question: how much sealed is left? Well, I've already done one in this series of videos, and I did it for the Sword and Shield era. So this time we're going to be focusing on the Scarlet and Violet era. You guys can go check out my other video about how much Sword and Shield sealed product is left. I basically run through the same format that we're about to run through today, but just for Sword and Shield. So go check that out and give it a like. All right, guys, so without further ado, let's just jump right into the data. So right here, we've got just the Scarlet and Violet era printing statistics. So the first slide with data on it is going to be the annual total cards printed with the estimated amount for the Scarlet and Violet era. So for those who don't know, the Pokemon Company every year releases how many cards they've printed that year. So the Pokemon Company doesn't tell us how many cards for each set they've printed. They don't tell us what the exact pull rates of certain SIRs or IRs are. They just don't give us a whole lot of information. Basically, the only information that we have that is official from the Pokemon Company is their total global print numbers. And there are so many factors to this, guys. We'll go over it all today, but there are things that we just don't know. And I'm just using my history in the hobby, listening to thousands upon thousands of hours of other Pokemon collectors and investors with distribution, and taking their numbers and doing the best estimation that I possibly can to give you guys an idea of how much Scarlet and Violet is actually left sealed in the wild. So like I said, we have the total print numbers for each of these years. We got 2022 to 23, there was 9.7 billion total cards printed. 23-24, 11.9 billion. Then 24-25, 10.2 billion cards printed. And again, that's worldwide, so that's not just English cards. There's no way to know how much English is printed, but based on, again, my history in the hobby, seeing how much the United States market and the English-speaking world drives demand for Pokemon cards, I just estimated the amount of English cards to be about 0.7. Since I was around all of these years, and I was around all of the Sword and Shield era years as well, and before that, I was there watching store shelves, buying and selling items while they were printing these products. So during the years of 2022 to 23, they aren't just printing Scarlet and Violet. They are finishing up printing and releasing Sword and Shield. Just like in the later years, like 24-25, we've been seeing them come out with all the mega sets. So the best I could assume for each of these years on how much Scarlet and Violet is actually being printed is about half of the total cards printed. So if you take that first number, the 9.7 billion, multiply it by 0.7 for the English cards, and multiply that number by 0.5 for Scarlet and Violet cards, we get the totals down here at the bottom. So for the first year, we have 3.36 billion cards, the next year 4.17, and then 3.57 billion cards for the 3 major years that they're printing Scarlet and Violet. So that brings us to the total Scarlet and Violet cards printed is 11.1 billion cards total. But there's a lot more to this. It's not just that simple. So come with me as we delve in to massive speculation. So this is where the bulk of the math comes from right here. So I have the sets in the left column, the notable chase cards from each of those sets, and then the print numbers and the pull rates for those cards. And what we can do with these numbers is, if you use them in the right mathematical formula, you can figure out how many packs were opened to get these total print numbers of cards graded. So as you can see at the top here, we've got the Scarlet and Violet base set. That was the Gardevoir EX. So there were 18,717 of those cards graded at all 4 companies, with a pull rate of 1 in 298 packs. So if you multiply that 18,000 number by 298 packs, you will see how many packs were opened to get that number of Gardevoir EX cards. So if you want to pause the screen, I'm not going to go through every single one here, but you can look at all of them there. I'll just go over some of the highlights, like the Magikarp from Paldea, 25,000. The No-Neck Zard, it was actually just under 100,000. It was only a few off, so I just said it was 100,000 graded, because with what cards PSA currently has in their backlog, I guarantee you the number's over 100,000. So 100,000 No-Neck Zards from 151, pull rate is 1 in 225. The Bubble Mew, 47,000 have been graded. The Crown Ninja or the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade, there's 21,000 of those graded, and that's 1 in 941 pack pull rate. So if you look at the bottom with the Mewtwo, the Reshiram, and the Zekrom EX, those numbers are quite low compared to the others. Now, their pull rate is also much higher than most of these other packs, so those numbers will probably always remain lower than like the No-Neck Zard from 151. But even with that, these numbers are incredibly low because Destined Rivals hasn't even been out a year. Black Bolt and White Flare, same thing. So it's hard to judge exactly. Or the Sunbreon even, which I can't believe I forgot about, only 16,000. Those numbers will certainly continue to go up. People are ripping Prismatic like crazy still to this day. So if you do that mathematical formula for all of these, what we have are the estimated packs opened and the broader calculations. To get those total numbers of cards graded, that requires approximately 212 million packs, which equates to 2.55 billion cards. So again, I kind of go over this in my last video, but the best estimation that I could assume for how many cards actually get graded is approximately 33%. And I have some of the data here from the Sword and Shield era just to kind of give context, but for a card like the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies, I would imagine up to maybe 80%, 50 to 80%, maybe even higher than that get graded. I would imagine that most Moonbreons, unless they come out of the pack damaged, are getting graded. Those cards are going to find their way into the hands of a collector or investor who's going to grade them. Of course, it's never going to be 100%, but it's going to be a high percentage. So 80% was just a rough estimate. But I coupled that with some less well-known sets, like take the Snorlax VMAX Rainbow from Sword and Shield base. There were only a few thousand of that card graded, so I imagined maybe only 5 to 15% of pulled cards actually get graded because people just don't even know that they should grade it or don't want to grade it. So if that's true, about 33% of chase cards do get graded, then we have to triple the number of cards opened. So if we triple that, we get approximately 8.5 billion cards opened. Now, there are other things to consider here as well. Pokemon prints a lot of different ancillary products. They don't just print booster packs. That is one thing that they print, but they also print League battle decks, build-in battle stadiums, EX battle decks. They print bricks of energy with up to 200 energies in cases full of just energy cards, because obviously you need energies to play the game. So there are a lot of ancillary products that they print. And the numbers that I have here on screen, I estimated about 500 million energy cards printed and about 0.25 billion ancillary products printed as well. And where I got those numbers was, again, just my history in the hobby, listening to people who have distribution and have talked about it over the years, like Rudy from Alpha Investments, Danny Phantom, just doing the best that I can. Again, this is obviously just an estimate. Nobody really knows. Not Danny, not Rudy, not even your millennial coworker who will correct you on anything. So if we add up all those numbers, that brings us to the total cards opened for the Scarlet and Violet era is approximately 9.25 billion cards out of, remember, the original printed number was 11.1 billion English Scarlet and Violet cards printed. So that brings us to our final estimate of sealed product remaining. It could be as high as 17%. Now this number completely flabbergasted me. You can go check out my Sword and Shield video going over the same topic, but the percentage for Sword and Shield was much, much lower. But like I said, Prismatic is still in print. Destined Rivals is still in print. Black Bolt and White Flare came out just 8 months ago or whatever. So there's still a lot of this product being ripped. Some of the later SV era sets, like I said, haven't even been out for a year yet. So you've got to give it some time and this number will certainly drop. But 17% seems to be reasonable. But again, some of the higher ripped sets probably have a much lower percentage than this, whereas some of the other sets like maybe Destined Rivals booster boxes, I would imagine that the percentage of Destined Rivals booster boxes still left sealed in the market today is much higher than 17% because nobody's ripping it. You can get booster bundles for $40 or $50 and the booster box costs $600. Nobody's gonna rip that. So there you have it, guys. That's my best estimation with all the history that I have in the hobby, running the math and the numbers to the best of our ability, how much Scarlet and Violet sealed product is actually left in the wild today. So yeah, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help. That's about it. Peace.